Right, absolute roasting Sunday today. It's really warm, 25 degrees plus. It's been sunny all day, not a cloud in the sky. I found myself yesterday with a day spare, so I planned to cut the grass and tidy up a few of the sort of old dead leaves that have been blown about in the winds we've been having this week. Still fairly windy today, so without that wind that would be absolutely unbearable. But yeah, so I had a day spare. I intended to just do a little bit of a tidy up, and obviously with the new palm sable palm in, sort of neated that little area up there, and the rest of this front to the arid bed looked really messy. It was just full of grasses, and well, I'll show you exactly what the situation is. I had a lot of this, I don't know what sort of grass it is. I think it's a type of Carex, variegated, but it's just thick matted. It just blocked the whole bed and just looked a mess. And a lot of the plants that I'd had in there were struggling to get through it. A lot of the dahlias didn't come up, a lot of cannas didn't come up at all. That grass had just literally smothered everything out, and it just looked a mess. So yeah, with the new palm going in last week, I thought I'd take advantage of having the day spare. I was going to save this job till next spring, but I thought I'll do it now. So I've just cleared this whole little border here of grass, and we've planted 6 new palms. So just when you thought I had no more space, I go and make some space. So again, all inspired by, you know, this year I've put a new raised bed in here where there used to be a greenhouse, and that's done really well. And with the new palm going in last week, I wanted, you know, at the end of the day, this is, as I enter my garden, my back garden, this is sort of the first thing you see. So like I say, beginning of the year, that would have been just a greenhouse, a few half-dead yuccas that are not really hardy, and they sort of die back and then grow back and always look messy, and just grass. So now we've got a proper tropical border with palm trees and lush plants with the cannas. But right, so let's just go through. So I think the last video I had to clear this little area here to get the palm tree in, the big sable, but the rest of it was still just full of that grass which had taken over. So basically I just put in palms and some elephant ears. Let's just quickly do the elephant ears first. They're just sort of minor plants, but bearing in mind we're in September now, first week September, it's not really the ideal time to be planting. But these are all elephant ears that I've just had in pots, and they're all, for me in my location, they're all hardy. So it's not like I'm going to be digging them out in a month's time or something. They'll stay in over winter and should come back next year. So quick look at the elephant ears just to go through. So we've got a standard Colocasia esculenta, only very small. We've got some pink chinas at the back here, which were divisions off a big clump further down the garden. I've got some burgundy stems, again very small, they're just in pots doing nothing. I've got a couple of clumps of these ones which were just from a World Food Shop in town, 25p. Little Edos, so they're just sort of wild Colocasias. Another one here, a wild one, 25p. We've got Esculenta, another Esculenta, burgundy stem, The old shadow's a bit harsh today. I have to try and keep out of my own shadow. And we've got a pink china at the back. So when I dug everything out of here, I did replant the dahlias. I did take out all the cannas and potted them up, so we're only just sort of struggling to sprout. The only thing I've put back from what I dug out was the tiger flowers, which I quite like for foliage alone, because it sort of reminds me of sort of a very sort of palm looking leaf with a very tight pleated, slightly bluey green, and obviously you get the nice flowers. They haven't flowered this year. I think I had one, yeah, one did flower, which is this one, but because they're struggling to fight through the grass. So yeah, so I dug it all out, turned the soil over, planted up, mulched it. Very happy, looks a lot neater, just a nice entrance to the garden now. Yeah, so again, the only thing that's letting it down really is the arid bed, which is full of weeds, but to be honest, all you see is the big plants anyway. There's a lot of clover and various problematic weeds there, which I'm going to let winter do the job for me, and everything will die back over winter. Then I'll put a fresh layer of soil on. I'll get some weed suppressant down, and then I'll just restone it, and hopefully that will solve the issue to an extent. You still get weeds growing in the stones, you're always going to get that, but at least they'll be easy to pull out. They won't be rooted into the soil. So that's the plan with that. So that'll be a reset for that arid bed as well. So we said we've got 6 new plants going in, so bearing in mind 6 new palms going in, bearing in mind that we had 2 new ones go in last weekend, which obviously was the big sable Mexicana, and we got a little sable minor there. So that they went in last weekend. So yesterday, after I dug everything out, all the grass, we've got 6 new palms in. So let's quickly go through these. All different, all hardy, or let's say half hardy where I am. We'll start with this one. So this is a Livistona decor. I think it used to be called Decipients, but it's been renamed Decor now. Yeah, so that's one I've been grown from quite a small seedling, bought off eBay probably 4 or 5 years. No, sorry, I'll probably exaggerate there. It's probably only 2 or 3 years. I'd say around the 3-year mark, and that's done quite well. It's been in a pot. That has been, like all the Livistonas along here, that has been outside in a pot all winter with just a bit of overhead protection, so they are acclimatized to the cold. So it's not like I've got a brand new palm which is going to be half hard and I've slapped it in the ground and it'll probably die because it's not used to the cold. These have been grown hard and slow, as I like to call it. So they've been overwintered, maybe the first couple of years just in an unheated greenhouse, and then last year they were outside in pots, and no significant damage on them. So that is the decor. I'm not going to say it's massive, but it's doing all right. To be honest, this one I had in a pot and I let it dry out a bit much, so it's not got many fronds. The old fronds all dried up. That's my mistake. Look fantastic coming out of winter, and then it's been such a hot, dry summer that I just weren't watering enough. So yeah, that's on me. So it has got quite a red petiole on it, and that is the size of the trunk. It's not a massive trunk by any means, but yeah, something a bit different. Slight red to the leaves as well. We'll see how that one does. moving on, so we'll come from this angle. We've got another Livistona chinensis, so I've already got one in the garden which has been out for 2 years. Survives every year. It's been down to, I think the first year that was in the garden, the other one in the garden, that took -7. Slight damage to the older leaves, but absolutely, you know, what I'd expect. But you know, it's not a tropical environment in the UK, but they certainly survived and certainly still growing. So this one is actually, if you're a long-term viewer to the channel, and I believe we're probably coming up to 4 years, I could be wrong, but yeah, I've had this originally in the channel. This was actually in the centre bed in the middle of the garden that is very small and tiny little palm. When I first started getting into palms, anything with slight chance of surviving I chucked straight in the ground, and this did survive every year, albeit most of the leaves died, and it grew one leaf a year. So I did pull it out at that stage and just pot it up, because I thought, well, there's no point having a palm if it's only going to put out 1 leaf a year and you've just got 1 good leaf. But as you experience growing certain plants, I just discovered that, you know, just a little bit of overhead protection, and that does tend to keep the palm looking okay. And yeah, so this is actually a palm I've had for about 6-7 years, and I did actually find a tag to it, and this is actually, this palm, this Livistona chinensis, was germinated, not by me. I bought it as a small seedling, but this was actually germinated exactly 16 years ago. So 16 years old, tiny little palm. But the point is, it's been grown all its life in the UK in a cold greenhouse, and you know, potted up and up and up. And yeah, last year again outside in a pot, very little damage. Couple of the oldest fronds which may have just sort of fizzed out anyway, but in general really good. So again, I'm not buying new palms and slapping in the ground thinking they're hardly down to a certain minus whatever. That doesn't work like that. You need to build up the tolerance. So again, take a bit of time, get a palm from small, build up each year, just a little bit more cold, and then you'll find you've got a really hardy palm. So that is a Livistona chinensis. Really one of my favourite palms for cold, like I say, cold hardy. You know, maybe not everywhere in the UK, but in a lot of places you probably get away with this. Right, we've got the Livistona. Oh, I might have got this the wrong way round. So going back to the first one, I believe the first one is actually Livistona australis. I think this one is the Livistona decor, just because the leaves are a bit floppy on the decor, and we can see they're sort of bending down. I think the australis has got lots stiffer leaves. They're very similar looking at this stage. So just hopping back to that one, so this is actually an australis because the leaves are stiffer, whereas the decor, well, we can see a sort of slight sort of droopy leaves. They are, as they get bigger, they get really droopy leaves. But yeah, so yeah, to put myself right there, again, that's the sort of size trunk we're talking, so not big at all, 3 inches of that. But again, out all winter in a pot. So that what makes me think we've got a chance of getting these growing, not fast, but growing and surviving. Right, so there's 3 in a row there, different Livistonas. Let's move on to the other 3. So this one is a little Camerops volcano, which is B&M purchase earlier in the year. I think I still got the tag on it even. Yeah, it's actually £17.50 from B&M. Was a little bit wobbly in the pot. I kept it in the same pot, but I just filled in any air pockets. There was a little bit of air pockets in there which made it a little bit wobbly. Filled that in, it's rooted out to an extent now where it's solid in the pot. I know a lot of people were put off by the wobbly Camox volcanoes, but in all honesty, you know, in the few months I've had it, the roots have grown and stabilised the plant to be a nice solid plant ready to go in the ground, and there it is. So that should be, this is, I found, for me, definitely the most hardy out of all the Camerops. So it's sort of almost a dwarf stiff leaf version of a Camerops. Really solid little plant, really hardy. Right, let's move on to the 5th new palm planted. So this one is, again, this is one that's been in a pot I've had for a long time, and this is going to be another one that's, again, not grown by myself, but I purchased as a small seedling off eBay. So this is a Syagrus romazophiana, the mountain form, Santa Caterina. So I've already got one in the garden further up. That's survived 2 winters. Again, down to -7. Very little damage. This one has been in a pot outside, again, in a pot outside all winter, just with a overhead cover on it, just to protect it from the worst of the rain and frosts. And again, very little damage. What you do find is you get a little bit of brown spot on, which you probably would get anyway on the older leaves, but as we can see, it's sort of pushed out this leaf this year, and we've got another leaf coming, so that's on the verge of going pinnate. I did find when I planted the other one, these were both exactly the same size. I had 2, planted one, and the second year it just went pinnate and looked fantastic. I just really appreciated being in the ground. This one's been in the pot, it's been held back, it's a lot smaller, but now it's in the ground. Next year I expect that to go pinnate and look quite good. Again, not a massive chunk on this at all. So sort of height wise, maybe 5 or 6 inches. I mean, probably a couple of inches wide, but again, because it's, I'm going to say this is probably around 12 to 15 years old, and I'm sure if you're in Florida or some other perfect environment for these, or you know, a natural environment obviously, they'd grow like weeds, and this would be like a year old or something. But bearing in mind this had been grown slow and hard, so again, it's never been protected, never been given supplementary heat over the winter. It's always been in either an unheated greenhouse or actually outside in a pot just under cover. So it's been many years building up to the point where it's going to be in the ground. I probably will still give it a little bit of protection, because what's the point of just chucking it in the ground and letting it take damage? I still rather keep it looking nice. Yes, it would survive being unprotected, but it'd look like rubbish, so I will still protect it, but worry about that when winter comes. So last one planted. So what we've got here is a little Trachycarpus princeps, pure white underside, none of this watered down cross. This is a pure princeps, very slow, but guess what, all these palms I've just planted are very slow. That's the idea. So not much more to say about that, other than I put it in a slight raised bed, so I did have a bit of log edging spare from the other raised bed I done for the new sable palms, so yeah, I've just raised it up. So that is 12-inch logging, so it's raised a foot just to give it really good drainage, because this is a trachycarpus that does look like, not look, it does like really good drainage, because they live on the edge of sort of cliffs and mountains and the like. So yeah, so that's going to be a slow burn. These are all going to be a slow burn, but that's the whole point. That the Camrops volcano will be a nice bushy little palm that will slowly size up. This is going to be quite an airy open palm. These Livistonas are going to be so slow. In fact, the one I've got further down the garden, I wouldn't say it's gained any height in 2 years. Yeah, it pushes out leaves every year, but it's not actually gained any height. So the point of growing these is I like the leaf form, and it's evergreen and whatnot, but the point is I don't want a fast growing palm in the front here which is going to block out the arid bed. The arid bed needs to be in full sun. So these palms, if they survive long term, because I'm not going to pretend that they will, that they've been proved hardy for me, being in pots, being outside, but it only takes one bad winter. But again, if they survive long term for even 5 or 10 years, I don't think they'll be so much height on them that they're going to block out the light to that, because they're, again, just so slow growing. So yeah, for me, this area's just been tidied up. I've got a nice entrance to the back garden now where I can come in, and almost the walk of shame for me coming in, you know, stepping in from the side entrance to the garden, and you know, first thing you see is this, and the new raised bed looked good, the new palm looked good, and suddenly you had just a mass of weedy grass. So now it is all tidied up. I'm really pleased with it. It's all been mulched. Oh, I will say I had a load of bricks, so I've done a new brick edging, because originally, yeah, I should have really mentioned this earlier, but so originally I had like log edging, and not like log roll, not like this stuff, but actually old logs. I had a buddleia tree when I moved in here several years ago, and I cut that and chunked it up into little tiny logs like this, and that was the original edging along here. Well, obviously that has sort of decayed throughout the years, and it's sort of quite soft, started to rot down. But what I thought is that's a really good environment for insects. And as I was digging out actually the grass yesterday, I had to be quite careful, because there's a lot of frogs and a lot of newts, and I thought, well, let's do our bit to keep the wildlife here. And so I've kept a lot of these old sort of half rotten logs. They're still fairly hard, but they're starting to rot down, and I've just spread them about throughout. So one, that sort of doesn't look out of place with all the wood chip, but two, it's just a perfect environment for any little creepy crawlies, or like say any frogs that find themselves out in the open in a nice hot day like this. They've got somewhere to hide and keep cool. So yeah, just a thought for the wildlife, as well as, you know, making things look nice. But sort of, I think that looks quite nice as well anyway. Right, yeah, so the brick edging, so I swapped the log edging for the bricks. I had a load of bricks laying about, didn't know what to do with, and it just suddenly came to me, well, let's use them. May not look the prettiest thing in the world, but it is recycling, repurposing, and also to an extent, in the winter, they are going to absorb a little bit of winter sun, which will then radiate out in the night. So that could be a difference between something living or dying. Some of the colocaceae maybe. Why not? Reuse, recycle. Right, so I did do a video I think my last video was about the new palm, the sable, but don't worry, not every video is going to be about this, but I just wanted to sort of give you an update. You know, throughout the week we've had a lot of rain and we've had a bit of sun, and that's been warming up nicely in this area, specifically the trunk really. Today it's been full sun all day, and you're not going to be able to read this here, so I'll bring it over to the shade. And you're still not going to be able to read it. I think it's probably overheated, gone haywire, but to be honest, that the high that maxed out at the max was about 46 degrees, and that's sitting around the 40 degree mark, and for some reason no, that might have just fried. Anyway, so the point is that's getting very hot, and I would go as far to say is actually that is very hot to the touch, so that's enjoying plenty of heat, getting cooked in the sun there. I was going to have a walk around the garden, but I think this video is probably long enough for most people's taste, so yeah, I just wanted to say that if you've got a spare day, you can achieve quite a lot. So I mean, if this is maybe the first video you've watched of mine, then that's not going to mean anything to you, but if you may have took notice of how bad this area looked over this year and probably last year as well, it's a welcome change for it to look quite, I wouldn't say neat and tidy, but just like it's been nicely freshly planted up, and I do quite like that look. I mean, the rest of my garden is mature in the sense that everything is fighting for space. It's nice to have stuff freshly planted and you just see it sort of spaced out. And I know everyone's going to say, oh, you planted them palms too close together. Again, these are very, very slow growing palms, and if they survive long term, I'll be as surprised as anyone. But anyway, so I'm not going to get into all that. Yeah, I just like the look of a nicely freshly planted, freshly mulched. Fantastic. And hopefully next year, like I say, the dahlias that I dug and replanted, they had little buds on. They were trying to grow, but they just couldn't get through that thick mass of grass that was there. And again, the same was with the cannas. I did pull out a couple of the cannas, which I've got potted up now, and we can see there's just a little sprout here, and this is actually one of them. I even forget what type of canna this is, but it's a really narrow form leaf, a really sort of nice purpley one. But yeah, they were really struggling to get through that grass. So now everything can actually grow. Again, these elephant ears, they're not going to put on much growth this time of year. Maybe chuck out a few leaves, hopefully get their roots down, but that's not going to make any difference because they'll be going dormant soon enough anyway. Let's leave it there. We'll have a walk around the garden another day. I'm getting a bit hot, and like I say, the video's probably gone on long enough as it is. Let me know if you've grown any of these more unusual palms. I've got plenty of, I say this in a tongue-in-cheek way, if you like. I've got plenty of normal palms, as in what people would normally grow in the UK. I've got plenty of Trachycarpus, you know, your standard sort of cold hardy bulletproof stuff, the Camerops, all the standard stuff, but the more you get into palms or tropical gardening, you want something different. You always want to be pushing the limits a bit, or I do anyway. I get very, I won't say bored, but you know, that doesn't excite you when you go around someone's garden. They've got 10 Trachycarpus fortunei. They're beautiful palms, don't get me wrong, but it's just not, it's not exciting. It looks good, don't get me wrong, it looks absolutely fantastic, and I've got plenty of Trachycarpus fortunei as well, but it doesn't excite me like it does if I see something that, oh, what's that? How are you growing that? You know, these are questions I like to ask people, and you'll be surprised what you can grow when you just give things, you know, tilt the balance in your favour with plant them in the right place, right soil types. Just a little bit of protection sometimes can do it. Right, so let's leave it there. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.